What do you get when two young superstars come along and completely change the way tennis is played? Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner are rewriting the rules of the game with their own power, speed, and creativity. They don't just play tennis, they've turned it into an entirely new sport. And today, we're going to show you how. In this video, we'll explore how Alcaraz and Sinner have revolutionized tennis, why even the best players in the world are struggling to adapt to their style, and what an Australian Open final between these two would mean for the sport. By the end, you'll understand why their rivalry isn't just exciting, it's shaping the future of the sport. Stick around because this is tennis like you've never seen it before. This story isn't just about two incredible players. It's about how Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner are forcing an entire generation of tennis stars to adapt or risk being left behind. From their jaw-dropping shot-making to their relentless movement, they've transformed tennis into a high-speed chess match that's redefining what it takes to win on the ATP Tour. So what makes Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner so special? At just 21 years old, Carlos Alcaraz combines blazing speed, creativity, and an almost magnetic ability to perform under pressure. His game is filled with explosive forehands, impossible drop shot lob combinations, and an uncanny ability to win points from positions where most players would have already lost. Jannik Sinner, at 23, is equally extraordinary. A former junior ski champion, he brings precision and balance to every shot. Watch him bend low for a backhand and then spring back into position. It's like watching a slalom racer navigate the icy slopes. His game is built on power, but it's also a calm, surgical approach that often leaves opponents scrambling. Together, Alcaraz and Sinner have redefined what it means to dominate in tennis. They don't just play the game, they elevate it to a level that few can even comprehend. But their brilliance isn't just about individual talent. It's about how they're forcing their rivals to rethink everything. On the ATP Tour, a neutral shot has traditionally been a way to reset the point. Against Alcaraz and Sinner, that logic no longer applies. For these two, hitting a neutral ball is the same as going on defense. And going on defense, that's practically a guaranteed loss. This hyper-aggressive style has turned tennis into a game of attack, leaving little room for patience or careful calculation. Players like Alexander Zverev, Taylor Fritz, and Casper Ruud, who spent their careers perfecting defensive strategies, are now scrambling to adapt. Zverev even admitted, tennis isn't about defense anymore. It's about making sure you can keep up offensively. Fritz spent his entire offseason working on chasing balls outside the singles lines, while Ruud is trying to develop the kind of explosive movement that Alcaraz and Sinner display in every match. The ripple effect of their domination is reshaping the entire sport, forcing players to question strategies they've relied on for years. If you want proof of their impact, just look at the numbers. Advanced data like Tennis Viz Steal Score measures how often players flip points from defense to offense. Alcaraz ranks number 1 in this category, with Sinner close behind. Across the ATP Tour, players win around 30% of points when forced outside the tram lines. Alcaraz and Sinner, they win 45%. It gets even more impressive when you look beyond the doubles lines territory, where most players have no chance. Alcaraz wins 43% of points from this zone, and Sinner is right behind at 42%. Compare that to their opponents, who average just 22%. Even their rivals admit it. Michael Russell, Fritz's coach, says there's no room for uncharacteristic errors against these guys. Any ball that doesn't have enough speed, depth, or width gets punished immediately. The stats don't just confirm their dominance. They show that Alcaraz and Sinner are expanding the dimensions of the court itself. But how does this play out when they face each other? Let's dive into their rivalry. The matches between Alcaraz and Sinner are nothing short of legendary. Their 5-hour, 15-minute showdown at the 2022 US Open was an instant classic. Fast forward to 2024, and Alcaraz won all 3 of their meetings, including a breathtaking comeback at the China Open final. Down 3-0 in the deciding tiebreak, Alcaraz pulled off 7 consecutive points that seemed straight out of a video game. Sinner spent much of 2024 as the world number 1, but Alcaraz holds a 6-4 lead in their head-to-head record. When they play, it's not just about winning, it's about pushing each other to their absolute limits. Their rivalry isn't just exciting, it's a glimpse into the future of tennis, where the margin between victory and defeat is razor thin. But their impact goes beyond their rivalry. They're changing the sport for everyone else. Players and coaches across the ATP Tour are now hiring movement specialists, reworking their shots, and even changing their mental approach to adapt to the Alcaraz-Sinner era. Ben Shelton has brought in a movement expert to make sure his explosive serve and forehand don't go to waste. Naomi Osaka worked with a ballerina to improve her footwork in the corners. Even juniors are learning from Alcaraz's drop shot lob combinations and Sinner's unmatched precision. These younger players are growing up knowing exactly what it takes to compete at the top level. For veterans like Fritz, Zverev, and Ruud, it's a harder adjustment. This isn't just evolution, it's a revolution. Alcaraz and Sinner are forcing the entire tennis world to adapt to their style of play. At this year's 2025 Australian Open, Alcaraz and Sinner are in opposite draws, meaning they could meet in the Australian Open final, something they have never done before, which is playing a Grand Slam final against each other. So what would a 2025 Australian Open final between Alcaraz and Sinner look like? If Alcaraz and Sinner meet in the final, expect a match of epic proportions. Sinner's serving has been nearly untouchable lately, while Alcaraz's creativity in the forecourt is unmatched. In their head-to-head stats, Alcaraz holds a slight edge in winning when attacking points, converting 66% compared to Sinner's 62%. But when they face each other, it's not just about numbers. It's about the moments, points that defy belief, crowds that erupt in awe, and a rivalry that feels like the pinnacle of what tennis can be. An Alcaraz-Sinner final wouldn't just be a match. It would be a spectacle, a battle of styles, wills, and a battle for the future of tennis.